Whether you drive a car,
need a car,
or just occasionally bum a ride with friends,
you've come to the right place.
Join Jill and Tom as they break down everything that's going on in the auto world.
New car reviews,
Shopping tips,
driving green,
electric cars,
classic cars,
and plenty of great guests.
This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, this is the Car Stuff Podcast. I am Tom. Thank you for joining us today. When you have a chance, you know the drill. Check us out at consumerguide.com. We've got 2025 Best Buys going up in a few weeks. You'll want to check those out. But in the meantime, if you are looking for a new car or truck, the current list is pretty handy. Plus, you can listen to the podcast right there on our homepage. All right, back in the studio. And by my count, equipped with all her limbs, is Jill Simonello. Jill is the managing editor of Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. She's a habitual freelancer. What's the other thing I'm missing here? Oh, North American Car of the Year juror.
Yes.
And you're just back from the Rebelle rally?
Yes.
You guys did good?
We did okay.
Yeah.
I think we did okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We finished.
You broke in a vehicle for Stellantis, and that is the Ram 1500 RHO.
Yes.
Which is sort of like the smart man's TRX.
The smart man's TRX. Yes.
TRX has been replaced.
Yes.
The Hemi is gone.
The Hemi is gone.
New mature 6-cylinder engine, lots of power. Mm-hmm. But that's what you drove this year.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I can't share driving impressions just yet.
Really?
Because the media drive is actually happening this week. And so I'm not allowed to talk about how it drove in extreme conditions just yet, but I can say it's a great truck, and I feel like we had a good rally because of it.
Well, that's good to hear. And I don't know if you can talk about this at all, but you had been concerned about its performance. Not that vehicle specifically, but that type of vehicle's performance in the sand, which is to say a big, heavy vehicle with a lot of power.
Yeah, because we didn't drive it before we went into the sand, there was a little bit of a learning curve. And I'm not going to lie, we got stuck a couple of times.
Sure.
But I feel like once we went on day 3 in the dunes, we started to get the hang of it a little bit more. And, we understood how fast we needed to go to get where we needed to be and not get stuck. And I would say day 3 in the dunes went much better for us. And, it was just more of an understanding between us and the truck than anything else. Now,
before you had left, you wrote a piece about driving a vehicle in the sand.
Yes.
Just re-explain that to us.
Yeah, I mean, I just essentially talked a little bit about the idea of taking a 6,000 plus pound truck in the sand and just worried a little bit about how heavy it is. And because previously we'd driven a truck that was like half that weight and which was very, very easy and smooth in the sand. And so, you look at the power equation, the heft of the vehicle, and just the finesse you need to be able to stay on top of the wee sandy bits. And so talked about how I was just a little bit nervous about that. And I feel like we did better than I thought we would.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, we didn't need to get tugged out of sand this year, so that was good. The stuck that it was max traxable, so using traction boards to be able to just, lift ourselves out. We had to do a little bit of digging, but we didn't go in up to the frame, so that was good. And it was just... It was a very different experience. Not only we were in the 4x4 class this year,
which is by far the larger class.
It is. There were, I want to say, 65 teams this year, and only about 7 or 8 were X-Cross. And so X-Cross, doesn't have the 4-wheel drive capability and 4 high, 4 low, that kind of stuff. And they get, I'm not going to say an easier path because it's still really, really flipping hard. But they get a different course that doesn't require 4 high, 4 low. And then the 4x4 class definitely gets the more rugged terrain and more difficult path through the wilderness. And we got to experience a little bit of that in was it John? No, it was near Dumont Dunes. I want to say that was in Nevada. I'm still discombobulated. I have not recombobulated yet. But it was stunning scenery, but very slow going and definitely treacherous.
Cool. So thank you to Stellantis for your sponsorship.
Oh, yes.
They provided you with a fine vehicle for this drive.
Yeah.
And thank the gods you have all your limbs.
for the most part, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't see any missing.
Nothing missing.
Okay.
I also have to give a shout out to eBay Motors. They provided us with the recovery gear that we did not need to use, and some other gear that we got a refrigerator from them.
Cool.
That was quite lovely on those 100-degree days to pull out a cool, sparkling water from the refrigerator. And then Harman Kardon provided us with, some sponsorship dollars as well as a thumb drive with music so that we weren't just listening to ourselves talk all the time.
Why aren't they providing me with like a Bluetooth speaker?
I don't know.
Oh.
They don't have love for you. They have love for me and Kristen.
I guess so.
Yeah.
You have already written something about your trip. We will link to that. I thought I saw something new.
I posted something on Facebook, so you can reshare my Facebook post if you like.
Okay.
But there's some really good
that did not link
photos.
to an article. Okay.
Yeah, no.
But pictures.
Yeah, there's like 20 photos in there of some of the terrain, the truck in action. Also, just some of the dirty photos of like after we've been digging out. I think there's a great photo of me like standing in front of 2 shovels.
Saw that.
Completely dirty.
Saw that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and shout out also to the Rebelle Rally folks, because I know this is a huge undertaking. We traveled 3,000 kilometers this year. And that was without any wrong turns. And I'm sure there were several wrong turns along the way. And they run this course. They plan the course. They plant the flags that we have to find. They do the plot points. They do like all of the things. Drew Deckman, who is like a Michelin star chef down in Mexico, like gives up 2 weeks to come and cook food for us for dinner. And,
that's pretty cool.
So there's just so many moving parts that go into all of this. And it's just a really cool event that is utterly life-changing every time I do it.
Well, cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right. While you were gone.
While I was gone.
August U.S. EV registrations showed up. And in the do you remember why they're registrations and not sales?
No.
Because Tesla does not provide sales numbers.
Oh, yeah.
So EV numbers are always dragging, and because Tesla constitutes so much of this chart that everyone waits. So to compare apples to apples, we have August EV registrations. I read these in Automotive News. I don't remember who compiled them. Number 1, we got the top 10 for August. Number 1 is obvious. It's the Tesla Model Y still,
right.
Followed by the Model 3. The Cybertruck on the list, 5,400 units. But the Honda Prologue, brand new Honda EV out of the chute. This is the one that's built for them by General Motors, though obviously they did their own design work on the vehicle. 4,973. I should go back and give the Tesla numbers. Tesla Model Y, 27,000. Tesla Model 3, 16,000. Cybertruck, about 5,000. Honda Prologue, about 5,000. Ford Mustang Mach-E, this is picking up some steam, about 4,600. Hyundai Ioniq 5, one of our favorites, 4,100. Chevy Equinox, out of the blue. This is new. It was pretty new in August. 3,500.
Yeah.
Volkswagen ID4. It's telling that the Equinox is outselling the ID4 by this much. The ID4 has been around for years now.
Yeah.
2,500. Much more expensive than the Equinox, a Chevy Blazer EV at 2,400. And then finally, the F-150 Lightning.
Yeah.
Kicks in at 2,300. Oh, I'm sorry. The source was S&P Global Mobility.
Okay.
That's who does the registration stuff. So there you have it. It's good to see 2 Chevrolet products on the list.
Yeah.
2.
Both the Blazer and the Equinox are great electric vehicles. I think in the review that I wrote of the Equinox, I called it a near perfect EV.
And we don't have to say why.
I know. If you've listened to us, you know why.
But interesting, and it's interesting that this is hitting a price point that people seem to be interested in. And Chevy is going to come out with a Bolt.
Yep.
Which should be priced under this.
Yeah.
Because Equinox starts where? About 33, 34?
I feel
at the low end?
I feel like that is correct.
Yeah, for not the big battery and for front-wheel drive.
Yeah.
All right. So there you have that. Little piece of interesting news here and a little bit of controversy. New Ferrari.
Okay.
New Ferrari. The F80 being called a hypercar.
Okay.
Limited edition.
Okay.
By Ferrari standards, limited edition. They're going to build 799 of these bad boys at a price of $3.9 million.
Wow.
Here's the controversy.
Uh-huh.
It's powered by a V6. So break with, I think every one of their hypercars or supercars or whatever they call their top line. The last one was the LaFerrari.
Right.
And that vehicle was a V12. But this one's a V6, and they want $3.9 million for this bad boy. There's an interesting story here. 1,200 horsepower, by the way, hybrid V6, 3.9 liters, almost 1,200 horsepower. So it's a bad car. It's a cool car.
Yeah. You don't mean a bad car.
I mean bad like the kids say it.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Just like, it's fat.
I'll just say badass.
PHAT. Yeah, badass. You can say that.
I don't know if I can.
If not, there'll be a bleep.
Way back when, and you won't remember this story, Jaguar sold a car called the XJ220.
Okay.
Came out as a concept car like in 1991 or 1990.
Yeah.
Came out as a production car in 1992.
Okay.
From the time it went from concept to production, it went from V12 to turbocharged V6.
Okay.
And Jaguar had to sue some people in line for the vehicle to buy the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
But interest fell off a cliff. Now, this is a long time ago and things were different and things cared about this. Also, the price went way, way up while people are on the waiting list. But the people who bought this and may or may not have been sued by Ferrari include Prince Charles, Mick Jagger, Elton John, and the Sultan of Brunei. These are people on the list. This car was really cool.
And sued by Jaguar, not Ferrari, by the way.
By Jaguar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say Ferrari?
You did.
I'm sorry, by Jaguar. So, interesting thing, they went from a 12 to a 6, and it really hurt interest in the vehicle. This is probably not going to happen to Ferrari, but people are mad.
Okay.
So that's that story. All right. I have in the parking lot, you probably saw it.
I did see it.
The Buick Envista.
Yes.
Now, people probably know that we really appreciate the Chevrolet Trax.
Yep.
Because it comes in around $22,000. It's a small crossover. It's got a lot of space inside. Very efficient, surprisingly refined, except for the engine. But nice interior, nice-ish interior. The Buick Envista is the Buick take on that vehicle. It's also built in Korea by the old Daewoo folks for General Motors. It is damn good. I'm surprised by how good this car is. The vehicle I'm driving is $31,000.
Wow.
It is surprisingly luxurious. Now, there are when I say luxurious, I have to qualify that some of the interior bits are not quite as nice as they could be, and they seem to hide some hard plastic underneath nice stuff. But this car rides and handles really well. It's surprisingly roomy in the front row, a little limited in the back seat. Fuel economy, I got 31 miles per gallon. The three-cylinder engine, and I'm going to say it again because it's absolutely going to be a barrier for some people.
Right.
Which is why they don't put three-cylinder. They just tell you the displacement, which is a tiny 1.2 liters. Yeah. 137 horsepower. Gets the job done.
Yeah.
It's quick around town. It does not sound great.
Yeah.
And it's the engine is predictably throbby at idle.
So when you say it doesn't sound great, is that from outside or from inside?
If you hit the gas hard while you're inside the car, you will hear the engine.
Okay, because Buick usually is really well known for their quiet tuning is what they call it.
Quiet tuning, yeah. And this car is very quiet. It's very quiet on the highway. It's very quiet around town. But you will hear the engine under certain circumstances, and you will certainly feel it.
Okay.
And a little throbby. I think most people won't care.
Okay.
I care. And it's not a barrier to ownership, and I want my daughter to look at this because my daughter's looking for a car, but I wish it had all-wheel drive, and it's not available with all-wheel drive. But it is stunningly refined and pleasant to drive and unbelievably good on the highway for $31,000. It's weird that there's a value product coming out of Buick, but it's really good.
So are you in the base model, or where is
I am
this?
in the top trim level.
Wow.
So there is the Preferred, which starts around $25,000 with Destination. The Sport Touring, which starts about $26,500, and the Avenir, top trim level, and that's the top trim level in every Buick model I'm driving, is $30,490. Now, a little annoying, but it doesn't matter because that's the price, is you do have to buy a package that gets you all the ADAS, the advanced driver assistance stuff.
That annoys the snot out of me on General Motors vehicles.
It lets them hit a price point.
It does.
I once heard an interview with people, and you just want to make sure you order that package.
Yeah.
Basically.
How much was that package?
$750.
$750. So I mean, to me, I'm just like, okay, it's $750. Is there not a way you could find to roll that in?
Well, they can by raising the price.
But I mean, $750. It's not that much money.
Well, you're saying that as the seller. What about as the buyer?
But it's $750 as you roll that into the price at like $31,000, whatever you said it was. Like that's $1, maybe less than $1 a month in a car payment.
It's not going to be a lot, and you want that there, and you want that. Here's the thing about that too. with that becoming, with the driver assistance stuff becoming so common, it's going to affect resale value in 5 years because people are going to expect it to be there. So you do want to get it. And I understand why they do it, and it's a little annoying that it's not standard, but then the end price is the end price with the equipment, which is about $30K. So it's impressive even with that priced in.
I think they should add it into the price. I really do, because
Probably.
I just think it's silly, especially for Buick, which is supposed to be a top-end brand. A Toyota Corolla has all of this stuff included at like $20,000. Like, why can't Buick do it for $31,000?
Buick can't do it because they want to advertise this car under $30,000.
Yeah, but why? They should still be able to do it for less than $30,000. Corolla can do it. I mean, I know it's Toyota, but like, it can be done.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, you're right. It would be nice if it was just their standard, but if they want to make it optional, because the thing is, there is an argument for consumers, too. There are consumers who do not see the value in this stuff, and if it can lower their price...
you have an off button.
What's that?
An off button. You can turn all this stuff off.
No. Well, you can.
$750.
But then you're paying for it and you don't want it.
$750. And I can't imagine somebody who is not going to want it. Like you said, it's really going to affect resale value. Like if you are going to try and get rid of this in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and you opted to save $750 so that you could save $750, like what's that going to do? That's going to do a lot to you're not going to be able to sell the vehicle for more.
Nothing you're saying is wrong, and we're running out of time here in the first segment. Nothing you're saying here is wrong. However, if a guy's at the desk of a salesman, he's trying to get a deal done, it turns out he doesn't care about this, and the salesman can't get to his price. I'm like, wait, we have one that doesn't have the ADAS package, and he can get that to his price. That's why you do that.
Nah.
And the reason you don't do that is everything that you just said, and also because it complicates ordering.
Yeah.
If it's not standard, then it's just one more thing for dealers to have to order. So, yes, you're right. But there are reasons. Anyway, this is the most affordable Buick, and it is by far very, very Buick for an affordable Buick. I'm surprised by everything. Drivetrain refinement, not quite there. My fuel economy is great. Performance isn't as bad as you would think. It's actually quite zippy around town. Right. So it just runs out of steam. Like if you need to pass from highway speed, meh, you might wish you were in something else.
Okay.
But very likable car.
Yeah.
All right. Have you driven this?
I've not.
Okay.
I've driven the tracks, but I've not driven this.
Yeah, if you've driven the tracks, then you kind of know this vehicle dynamically. It handles and rides about like that, which is to say the tracks rides and handles very well. Yeah. So this is at Buick stores now. I think it's selling pretty well, too. So heck of a nice car. All right, we're going to be talking used cars in a moment. Yes. We talked to Alex Knizek. He's the Associate Director of Automotive Testing at Consumer Reports. We're going to be talking about best used cars. You know, in our opening, our Steve and Johnny read opening sequence, we do mention helping people buy cars, and we don't do that enough.
I concur with that. But people should ask us questions when they're buying a car.
They should ask us questions, but we never really address like how to get the best deal and what's the best used car and things like that. Right. So we could probably do that. But anyway, let's take a break, and we'll be right back with Alex Knizek of Consumer Reports.
Awesome.
Questions or comments?
Drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.
That's carstuff@consumerguide.com. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. I'm Tom. She is Jill. Jill, how are you doing?
I am tired.
Yeah, I imagine.
I'm really tired.
I imagine. I am not so tired.
That's good.
Yeah, I had a pretty easy week, actually.
Yeah, I was up at 4 a.m. for like 10 days straight and was going to bed at like 10. I'm tired.
I don't think anything could compel me to do that.
Yeah. It's hard.
Like if I had to be up at 4 a.m. for a week to save my wife's life, I would stutter for a moment before I agreed to do it. I would do it.
I hope Jill does not listen to this.
I would do it, ultimately, but I would be like pretty mad about it. Psst. Yeah, like you better be nice to me for the rest of our relationship because I got up really early for a week. All right. I am Car Guy Tom on Twitter. This is the time that I remind people of that. Yeah. We're going to be talking used cars for the first time in a long time, which I'm really glad about. Yes. All right. Our guest today is Alex Knizek. He's the Associate Director for Automotive Testing at Consumer Reports. Alex, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us here at the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. For people who don't know, tell us about Consumer Reports and what you do there.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Consumer Reports, I mean, we've been around for a long time testing products since, the 1930s, and cars is one of the biggest areas, that we work on. And I think, when it comes to car testing, one thing that makes us quite unique is we're buying everything that we test. We're a nonprofit organization, and so we don't take advertising or anything like that. So we're really, trying to take an unbiased approach and, reflect what the consumer is gonna experience as best as possible. So when it comes to cars, again, that means buying everything that we test, every car that we test. And generally that also means the mainstream version of that car, right? Instead of testing the highest version with all the bells and whistles and whatnot, we're testing the mainstream version that you or I are most likely to see in our actual daily life, right? So, and then we have a test facility out here in Connecticut where we test everything, and it's a little over 300 acres. We have our test track here, and so have about 50 different tests, subjective and objective things that we're looking at with all of these vehicles, and we test a lot of different vehicles every single year. So the program is always changing, but test everything from, the newest Camry all the way up to the latest and greatest EVs that are coming out. So we have a pretty wide spread of what we look at, and, all with the idea of providing the consumer with, the best information that they can so they can make an informed decision. And we've been doing that for the longest time with new cars, right? That's what we've been known for most. But most recently, we've really expanded into the used car space to recognize that, ultimately the used car market is a lot larger than the new car market.
About 3 times bigger, am I correct?
Yeah, at least double the amount of used cars sold. But, we actually did a pretty interesting survey where 40% of Americans last year that were considering buying a vehicle within the next year, they were looking at used cars only. So they weren't even considering, new cars or even considering both. They were just like, strictly, I'm going used only. So it's quite a high number. So it's definitely an opportunity to help a lot more people.
We should talk about that because that's why you're here. And you guys just put together a list of the most reliable used car brands. Can you tell us about that list and how you guys determine that? And maybe walk us down maybe the top 10 or so.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the reliability, it's such an important thing. And it's important whether you're buying a new car or a used car. But routinely, time and time again, when we survey both our members here at Consumer Reports, but also nationwide surveys, when we ask people what's most important, reliability routinely comes out towards the top, if not the most important thing. So it really is the basis of this, first ever used car brand ranking list that we came up with here. And so, how we come up with it is we survey our members every single year, and we're basically asking them about the issues that they had with their vehicle over the last year since we surveyed them the last time. And we break these things down into what we call major trouble spots. So major being things like an engine or a transmission failure, something big that's going to either be costly or leave you stranded or without the vehicle or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And those are weighted more heavily than minor things like a, squeak and rattle or an infotainment glitch or something like that, right? So, but we're looking at all these different areas and basically asking our members where they had issues with their vehicle, and then bring all that information together. And when it comes to this used car brand ranking, we're looking at vehicles that are between 5 and 10 years old. So we're bringing all the data for those vehicles together to really come up with a ranking here of which brands are most reliable over this 5 to 10 year period, which is quite interesting. And, I think the ones that kind of at the top are not all that surprising.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first 3, not too much of a surprise.
Yeah.
I like the list because it goes from green to yellow to orange. And I guess orange orange is a warning. And yellow is...
We try to not use red.
So at the top of the list, I'm just going to surprise people. Lexus and Toyota, which actually I think surprises nobody.
That is so stunning. I had no idea.
And that accounts also...
I know, you're shocked.
I'm shocked.
The surprising resale value of those vehicles, too. But the rest of the list,
that's a big part of it.
The rest of the list gets kind of interesting. Can you walk us through it?
Yeah, I think right off the top there, while Lexus and Toyota being at the top isn't too surprising, the gap that we have between those two and the next one. So for those maybe just listening or not looking at this list, we have a number, 0 to 100 in terms of this reliability average. And so you have Lexus at 75, Toyota at 72. And Mazda's in your third position, but they're coming in at 59. So there's quite a bit of a gap there when we're talking about this data. So it's not to say that they're unreliable, but it just shows how Toyota and Lexus really do stand apart in this analysis. So, but yeah, I mean, then going down from there, you have Acura, Honda. So, I mean, you're having a lot of these Japanese brands at the top, and you have some others a little bit further down, Subaru, but they're still in this. They're not in the orange, right? They're very firmly in the yellow.
Right. Yeah,
and we see a lot of these brands doing very conservative redesigns, right? So when they go, and I mean, we just saw it, right? We're here at CR, we're testing the latest Camry, and it's no secret that it's more of an iteration on the last Camry than it is a wholesale redo of the car, right? So, and so you might not be getting the flashiest thing or the craziest car out there. There's a lot of crazy cars on the road these days, but by iterating on their products, they just tend to be more reliable. So a lot of these brands at the top tend to follow that type of mentality. So I think that's why a reason why they tend to stand out. But I do think, other brands that are surprising are you have Buick up there, which is great to see a domestic brand that high up on the list. And similar things. I mean, like the Enclave being around for a little while. I know it just got a redesign and we're testing that now. But so and then I think BMW is one that people maybe would be surprised to see.
I am
firmly in the middle at the 7th position. Yeah, I mean, BMW, and we see it with our new car information too. They've been getting more reliable over time. So, BMW stands out. Subaru, Nissan in at 8 and 9 respectively. I was personally a little surprised to see Nissan so far down the list. You kind of think about them being a little bit more reliable, or at least I tend to, in my brain, loop them in with the other Japanese brands. Right. And so, and it's interesting thinking about these lists because, as I mentioned, it's a 5 to 10-year-old time span. And so it depends on really the models that the brands had on sale at the time. And it could have been a mix of models that were around for a really long time, or, we see when we do our reliability analysis, if a brand goes through a period where they've kind of redesigned their whole fleet, which happens sometimes rather than a, slow rollout over time, they just redo everything all at once. That happens. It can have negative implications to the reliability, right? First year for products, they tend to be a little bit more unreliable, and then they work things out over time. So, if you go to cr.org/used cars, you can find all this information. You can see the individual models that basically were included in that 5 to 10-year-old analysis for these brands.
Alex, I have two questions about the yellow section, if you don't mind. Sure. The first one is, you had mentioned that BMW was becoming more reliable over time. I was still under the impression, and obviously I'm behind the curve here, that BMWs, especially used BMWs, were problematic and very expensive. Is that a thing that did exist and it is now correcting itself? Same thing with Mercedes-Benz, actually.
Yeah. Honestly, Mercedes-Benz is an interesting one because we almost see the opposite, where the new stuff is starting to become more unreliable, whereas BMW is going in the opposite direction, at least according to our data. So expense is not fact. This is strictly, we're talking about reliability. Maintenance and repair costs are a slightly different, related for sure. You can't totally separate the two, but the cost to maintain these things is different. But we just see that BMW, especially on the powertrain side, making strides with their newer vehicles, working towards better reliability. So with Mercedes kind of going the other direction.
Interesting question for you here. We've got Buick pretty high on the list, and then also from General Motors, and sharing some vehicle platforms. Chevrolet is pretty far down on the list. Do you have any insights as to why those two brands might be so far apart if they're from the same maker?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it can be said more generally too, just, yes, there is some sharing that goes on between the brands, but you do have to look up at the make, the model makeup of the brand, right? Buick has far fewer models in its lineup than Chevrolet. So if they're able to have stronger reliability for those, that smaller subset of vehicles. And also Buick has cars coming out of their North Korean factory, which when we look down at that model level, or not North Korea, their South Korean factory, we tend to see, and we don't have exact way to correlate the two, but we do tend to see that vehicles coming out of that factory seem to be a little bit more reliable. So they have, like, for instance, the Encore GX and the Envision. So some of these vehicles tend to just be a little bit more reliable when you dig down to that level. And then, Chevrolet and some of these other GM brands having a more widespread portfolio.
Okay, so looking at the orange, I have to say it is really, really, and you know what I'm going to say, probably startling.
I do.
That pretty much all of the American brands are there. I mean, you do have a Volvo and Audi, a Hyundai and Kia, but pretty much everything else, all American. Yeah. That to me is disheartening and shocking. Do you have any thoughts about like what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint the exact reason, and I think, we all know that there isn't necessarily one reason for this. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, it can come down to the product level in terms of how that vehicle is designed, but it can also include, the culture of the company and how they tackle manufacturing problems and cost-cutting measures and things like this. So I'm not pointing fingers at any of the brands specifically, but there's a lot of things that can go into. Well, I think, if you look at data even elsewhere, you see that, even at the supplier level, like the relationship between some of the brands and their suppliers is stronger with brands maybe at the top of our list more than at the bottom. So there are reasons why a vehicle from a certain brand might be unreliable compared to its competitors. And it's just, sticking to the facts here, you just look at these models and they just tend to be less reliable over time. Now, I will say there are some interesting things here in the sense of course, Ram, Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler, those are all under one parent company. So there's clearly some issues happening more broadly there.
Sure.
But two other things. Tesla is interesting because when you think about Tesla, it's the newest brand on this list, right? We don't have Rivian or Lucid shown up here because we just don't have enough data for those yet. But Tesla was a pretty different brand, if you think about it, 5 to 10 years ago than they are today. In terms of they were mostly selling Model X's and Model S's. The Model 3 was just starting to come out, right? So if you look at that product mix compared to what it is today, it's different. And so you start to see, buying an older Tesla that might be one of those models is not as reliable or as a sure bet as buying something that's newer. So they've kind of changed over time. And the other thing I'll say on this is just because a brand is in the orange list, it doesn't mean that every single car that they make is unreliable. And I think, a good example of this is Chevrolet. So it's number 18 in the lineup, but the 2018 to 2019, Chevrolet Equinox actually does stand out as having either average or above average reliability within those years. So,
okay.
It really speaks to, if you go to cr.org again, you can look at the individual model you might be interested in, and you can say, okay, the brand is a good place to start, but let me dig into that model that I'm actually interested in, and you might be surprised to see that, Chevrolet as a whole falls here on the list, but this particular car I'm interested in might be better than that.
Alex, we're running out of time here, but I'd like to talk about some of the specific models that you guys recommend as top used picks. Yeah. Can you just walk us through that list or selectively pick some of the ones that interest you?
Yeah, of course. Before the individual ones, I think the overarching statement I like about this is just the list really, for a lot of these vehicles, it focuses on value. So, and what I mean by that is all of these cars have above average reliability, which, as we've talked about earlier, is kind of the biggest factor here, right? One of the most important things when you're shopping used. So all of these cars have above average reliability, but then at the same time, they've depreciated more, or at least most of these cars, compared to their direct competitors. So you're kind of in this sweet spot where you're paying a little bit less than the competitor for a reliable car. So that would mean, we have the 2017 Chevrolet Cruze on the list, for example, small sedan, and it's under $10,000. So you're getting a pretty, relatively new car that is kind of under the radar at this point. That's going to be reliable and get you pretty modern features and whatnot for, I'm not saying $10,000 is nothing, but relative to the $50,000 people are paying for a new car, right?
Kind of a bargain,
That's pretty good. Yeah. So, and it's a similar story with the 2020 Buick Envision, luxury SUV under $20K. So, a good way to think about this is if you wanted to get a competitor vehicle from another brand, say Toyota or Lexus or something like that, that was also a 2020, it's going to be more than $20,000. Or if you wanted to stay within your $20,000 budget, it's going to be an older car. So these models on this list kind of follow that methodology. So another good example, the 2020 Mazda CX-9, $3 3-row SUV under $20,000. So again, kind of under the radar. Everybody's thinking about Highlanders and Pilots and whatnot. Whereas the 2020 CX-9 is a pretty solid choice.
A lot of journalists, a lot of car journalists own CX-9s. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Guys on the inside seem to like it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it drives well, and again, it's reliable. So, and none of us like to overpay for a vehicle. So, yeah, and then there's a couple of other, fun ones on the list, like the 2019 Mazda Miata.
Sure.
Sports car under Miata's always the answer, right? We know that. So, that's on there. 2015 Toyota Tacoma. I personally like that choice. Pickup truck under $20K. So yeah, a lot of solid options on the list.
Cool. Alex, we've run out of time, but remind us or tell us how we can find this list and how people can learn more about Consumer Reports.
Yeah, absolutely. So consumerreports.org/used cars is where you'll find the brand ranking we talked about, the top picks list, and then a bunch of other stuff around used cars. You can find all of the latest and greatest information on that link there.
Sounds good. Alex, we'd love to have you back on again.
This has been great. Thank you guys so much.
All right. That is Alex Knizek with Consumer Reports. We're going to take a break, and when we come back...
Quiz time.
Questions or comments?
Drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.
That's carstuff@consumerguide.com. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. We talked a little bit of used car action.
Yes.
I'm Tom, she's Jill. We don't talk enough about used cars.
No, and what's really funny is I always buy used.
Yeah, most journalists do.
I know. Well, you talk about what do journalists buy and what do journalists do. Yeah, you should ask more about that.
Jill, my wife, and I bought our Volkswagen Jetta diesel wagon new because the resale value on them was so good. There was no point in buying one used.
And then Dieselgate happened.
Yeah, and we cleaned up. We drove that vehicle for nearly 10 years, and then we got $14,000 back from Volkswagen. It's like, wow, we drove this for cheap, and then we went out and bought a Crosstrek, which we still have.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cheap. All right, you're out there in the social media ether, as it were. You've been dead for a week.
Kind of. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, all of the things, LinkedIn, Facebook, Threads. On TikTok, I did schedule out a post every day, so I didn't leave my fans high and dry.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
I got a lot of views and like 1,000 new followers, so maybe they appreciate me being gone more than being there. I don't know.
I don't know what happened. There was another X cleansing, as it were.
Okay.
But I think a lot of bots got wiped out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just one day I lost like 20 or 30 followers. It's like, a bot cleanup, which used to happen a lot more often.
Yeah, I don't know that I've looked at Twitter since I've been back.
I don't know how much you're missing. Great Car Spotter posts from me.
Just your stuff.
Great ones.
That's it. That's all I'm missing.
All right, it's quiz time.
How to find me? Jill Simonello, my name, or the hashtag car du jour. Sorry.
All right, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I know you like talking about social media.
I love it.
Yep.
I hate social media.
I know.
I don't hate it. Actually, there is a group of maybe 30 or 40 people that I exchange with on X that are serious car guys, and that's really good. They're really good, and they're good car spotters, and we talk about stuff, and they know stuff, and it's cool. Also, it's nice that there are guys over 50 that remember the stuff I remember, because we're passing the point where the average person remembers stuff from the 80s, and the 80s were so interesting for cars. Not good, a lot terrible, but interesting.
Okay.
Like
I will just take your word on that.
Yeah. I mean, the Fiero is not as, yeah. You owned one? Producer Randy owned a Fiero.
And he's nodding his head.
Was it a V6? It was a 2M4? Yeah. I drove a 2M4.
Okay.
Way back when my cousin had one. It was surprisingly likable from behind the wheel.
I feel like one of my sister's boyfriends had one of those.
The early ones were badly built and liked to burst into flames.
But other than that, it was great.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of General Motors products, which we sort of were.
Okay.
Today's quiz, are you ready?
No.
Was it a Cadillac?
Okay.
All right.
I got to dust off my brain.
All right. We got the music.
Which means
that the long pauses aren't as awkward. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to I'm going to give you 5 model names. You have to tell me if they were Cadillacs or not.
Okay.
All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. The rules, 5 questions plus a bonus question. Bonus question always related to the topic of the day. All right. Mm-hmm. You need to get 3 total.
Yes.
First one, Catera. Was there a Cadillac Catera?
Yes.
There was. From 1996 to 2001, it was based on the Opel Omega.
Yeah.
The advertising campaign was the Cadillac that zigs.
Okay.
And it was an interesting car because the Opel Omega was an interesting car, and it was kind of a BMW 5 Series vehicle, but the interior was kind of cheap. There were reliability issues, and I think it just came in a little expensive for what people expected. Not that quick either, 3-liter V6, but it handled very well. It looked okay, it just didn't look like a Cadillac. So
Okay.
Catera, you're on the board.
Yeah, I feel like that vehicle went away right as I was starting to write about cars.
It did. It was replaced by the Cadillac CTS, which kind of changed Cadillac.
Yeah.
It was kind of a very Euro sporty vehicle from the start. They didn't import it from Europe, and it was designed. That started the whole art and science design phase.
Okay.
The Cadillac was kind of lean, clean, sharp edges. Yeah, interesting. All right, you're on the board. You've got 1 point. The Cadillac Bonneville. Is that a real thing?
I know Pontiac had a Bonneville.
Pontiac did.
I'm going to say no.
You've got 2 points. Doing good today. The Bonneville, there wasn't one, so I don't have I don't have years for that vehicle.
No.
All right.
But Pontiac.
Cadillac Alante, was that a thing?
Ooh, that sounds familiar. How do you spell that?
Allante with an accent. I believe Alante is French for the cheese is ripe. I could be wrong.
Probably wrong.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes.
Yes. From 1987 to 1993, it was based on GM's mid-size luxury platform. It was based on the Eldorado,
Okay.
the Riviera, and what was the other car there that I'm forgetting? The Oldsmobile Toronado.
Okay.
But the bodies were, do you know about the air bridge?
No.
The bodies were built in Italy, in Turin, hand-built aluminum bodies that were air-shipped here to the U.S. for final assembly. It turned out to be a pretty expensive thing to do for a car that didn't sell well.
I imagine.
Those are quite collectible now.
Okay.
All right, you've got 3. You're doing very well.
I've already won.
You've already won.
And I should point out I'm eating a Cinnamon Twist donut. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I've got a German chocolate coming. Or a double chocolate. It's up to Randy. Cadillac ELR.
Yes.
Yes. Do you remember what that was?
Wasn't that the XLR version? Or no, it was like an electrified version of something.
It was just a version of the Volt with a V.
Okay.
Interesting thing, that came in frightfully expensive when it was new.
Yeah.
Like $70K, close to $80K. It was gorgeous. It was a coupe. The Volt was a sedan, but this was a coupe. It was gorgeous. They sold very few of them, but it was an extended range hybrid.
Yeah.
Our friend Dave Sloan, I think, still owns one. And he's kept it in beautiful condition.
I bet. Yeah.
All right, you've got 4 points.
Woo!
Finally, the Cadillac Cimarron.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, it's a punchline. The Cimarron, this says 81, but I think that's wrong. I think it was introduced for the 1982 model year. Was basically a Cadillac version of the Chevrolet Cavalier. And a gigantic mistake for Cadillac. It really hurt their reputation. It was just a glorified Cavalier. The Cavalier was not a terribly bad car, but it was cheap, and this looked like a dressed-up version of a cheap car. You got 5 points. Nice job.
Aren't I? I thought my brain isn't as dusty as I thought it was.
I guess not. Or maybe it's clear because of the fog.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah. That happened. Like, I work better when I'm tired.
I've just been I literally got to the point of exhaustion at the end of the rally. Like on the last day, I could not get up, and then there was no amount of coffee that was going to help me wake up. And then we were we got a flat tire going into the finish line, so then that was an extra 2 hours. I'm just all I want is a glass of wine and sleep. Yeah.
All right, you ready for the bonus question?
I'm ready for the bonus question.
It's all about Billy Joel. Now, you know who Billy Joel is.
I know who Billy Joel is. My husband loves him.
When we talk about the 80s, you can't have a conversation of the 80s about talking about Billy Joel.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
I need you to tell me which of the following is not A Billy Joel album.
Okay.
Ready? Mm-hmm. Your husband would know.
Yeah, he would.
Cold Spring Harbor.
Okay.
Piano Man.
Okay.
Nylon Curtain. A Moment in Time. One of those is not a Billy Joel album.
Pretty sure Piano Man is.
Correct. I'll just give that to you now.
Okay. And I feel like...
I would have been upset if you didn't know that.
Yeah. What was the one after that one?
Nylon Curtain.
I feel like that is also an album. I'm down to the first one and the last one.
Cold Spring Harbor. Mm-hmm. A Moment in Time.
See, A Moment in Time sounds too much like A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle.
I don't know who that is. Should I know who that is?
Yes.
No.
Especially because you have a daughter who probably read the book.
Okay, whatever. I'm a bad parent, so I wouldn't know.
Well, there is that. Okay, so the first one was what?
Cold Spring Harbor.
And the last one?
A Moment in Time. Clock is ticking.
Oh, we still have like 10 minutes. I'm fine.
But I got stuff. I got extra stuff I want to get to.
You got extra stuff you want to talk about? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go with A Moment in Time.
As the fake?
Yeah.
You're perfect today. Huh. Yes, I've got the list here real quick. These are his studio albums. Cold Spring Harbor in chronological order. Cold Spring Harbor, Piano Man, Street Life Serenade, Turnstiles. I wrote The Strange, but the answer is The Stranger. 52nd Straight, Glass Houses, Songs in the Attic, Nylon Curtain, Innocent Man, The Bridge, Stormfront, River of Dreams, and he also did a classical album of piano concertos called Fantasies and Delusions, which is actually excellent. Also, Glass Houses, man, when I was in high school, that was big. That's got, you may be right on it. All right.
Innocent Man, I probably would have gotten that one if you'd put that in. Those are the two that I would have known. That's
during that brief period of time when he started to go a little bit adult contemporary. Yeah. He seems to have gotten his caffeine back. Of course, he's 75 years old now.
Yeah.
Interesting story here. When the Cybertruck was being explained to us by Elon Musk and explained to us because we looked at it and didn't know what it was, at one point in time, he told us there were 2 million hand raisers for that vehicle.
Yep.
That had put deposits down. They're gone. Now,
surprise!
Now, we saw on the list that it's selling reasonably well for an electric vehicle in the U.S. right now, but nowhere near as well as a Model Y or Model 3, though we don't really know what the production rate is yet. So we can't really make a lot of judgments right now, but we do know this, and that's that there are now massive Cybertruck price cuts, which suggests to me that there really isn't a waiting list.
I would concur with that statement.
Yeah, so the Foundation series has gone away. And I don't know what it is with manufacturers now, but they keep coming out with like first editions and things like a Foundation series. But that vehicle is gone.
Okay.
The dual motor version of the vehicle went from $99,000 to $79,000.
Wouldn't you be ticked if you spent $99,000 to get it first and then it dropped $20,000?
I don't know why anyone jumps in like that when prices are high. This is a true story. I worked for a marketing consultancy. I'm not going to say the name of it, but the owners were truly awful people. The kind of people you would expect would own a marketing consultancy that's in a storefront in a shopping center.
Okay.
But they went all in, and they put way over list for a PT Cruiser.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know this is like 1999 or so. Ugh. But they got like a purple one, and they were like one of the first people to get a PT Cruiser.
Right.
And they paid way over list. Months later, that thing was selling with rebates.
Yeah.
It did not pay to be first on that one.
No, I remember when I first moved to Chicago, the guy I was dating, his parents had bought one, and that should have been my first clue. This was not the person I should have been dating, because he was super excited about the PT Cruiser. Super excited.
It was, there at the time, it was an interesting design study. It looked cool. Paying a lot of money for it was not interesting. Later, they came out with a turbocharged version, so it was kind of quick. It was always really cheap inside.
Yeah.
It wasn't very refined, but it was a nice enough car. It sold really well as just a regular consumer product for a while.
Yeah.
Like it was their small crossover before there were small crossovers.
Yeah. Well, and Chevy had the HHR.
Which I thought was the far better execution.
Yeah.
I like the HHR a lot. Mm-hmm. And then there was the turbocharged version of that, the SS. Mm-hmm. And then you can get one without side windows in the panel version.
Right.
Like, HHR was kind of cool.
Right.
Also, there was a dreadful convertible version of the PT Cruiser.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, it was kind of expensive, and it had that huge Targa bar. And if you were in the back seat, which was elevated, you always thought your head would slam into the Targa bar if someone hit the brakes really hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, also the Cyber Beast version of the Cybertruck down from 120,000 to 100,000. And they seem to be available, according to message boards, immediately.
Okay.
There is no 2 million people raising hands.
No. Well, and I feel like I can't even remember how much money, like if it was just $1 you had to put down. It had to have been more than that.
Oh, I don't know what it was. Usually it's $100. Our friend Robert Colangelo got in line for one.
Okay.
He thought he would use it because he actually has a farm and like an electric pickup, and he thought this was going to work. And he put $100 down, and just nothing ever happened. And what they did was they gave him, because he was in line for so long, they did give him $1,000 Tesla credit, which he put towards a Model Y.
Okay.
Which he recently, I just test drove that.
Yep.
Thank you, Robert. All right, we're running out of time here, sort of, but I've got a gross story for you.
Okay.
I think you'll think it's gross.
Okay.
And it's not really a car story, but it is.
Okay, so am I going to want to finish my donut when you're done telling the story?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But you're not going to want to touch my wallet.
Oh, I will back away from you. Because I probably don't want to touch your hands either, because you've been touching your wallet.
So as you know, I have caffeine issues.
You do.
And I drive through McDonald's a lot for iced tea. And if I ever need a bigger kick, I'll go through Taco Bell for a Diet Pepsi.
Okay.
So the other day, I'm going through the McDonald's just down the street from here, which is a terrible McDonald's.
Okay. It's
terrible. It's run very poorly. But there's a guy there that's been there forever that I blame for most of the terribleness. And this guy was there, I think it was yesterday. So I'm driving through. I left the health club. It's Sunday evening. I just want nice tea to carry me through the work I've got to do that night.
Right.
I got a lot of writing to do. I should talk about what I wrote. I'm going through the drive-thru. There's no line at all.
Okay.
And I order a large iced tea, large unsweet iced tea. I get to the window. That guy that I don't like that works there is working. Okay. Maybe I don't like him because he's my age. But he takes my credit card and he keeps tapping it on the thing, and it's not working. Mm-hmm. He's using his right hand. Oh, I see where this is going. And while he's waiting for it to process, he starts scratching a rash on his arm with my credit card. Oh. Okay, that's not quite where I thought. I thought he was going to lick your credit card. No, but I would rather he had. So I'm like, I got my credit card. And he's handing it to me, and I'm like using my fingers as like little tweezers. Like, thank you. And I just drop it on the passenger seat. But I'm like, that's bad form. This guy's like a manager. Very, very bad form. Well, it's somebody who just does not have spatial awareness. So, yeah. Oh, man. I asked for a napkin, and I wiped it off with a dry napkin. So it's probably still infected. Yeah, because you need I just used it to buy donuts. Oh, great. I don't have, in my backpack, I fly United all the time, and they hand you the little United wipes to wipe down your whatever. Yeah. And I never wipe anything down because I'm not going to use the tray, but I always stick the wipes in my bag to use. And so I wish I had one of those that I could give you to wipe off your credit card and the rest of your wallet now. It's too late now. And I don't seem to be coming down with anything. I don't know. I think I see a rash on your arm. You do not. Although my tan is fading. Yeah. Or maybe it's on your face because you touched your credit card and then you scratched your head. Scratched my head after he scratched his arm. Right. All right. So there you go. McDonald's, this guy should not be scratching his arm with my credit card. No, he should not. All right. Guess what we did? We talked about gross things. We did. And too much. Yeah, we did. Good show. Thanks to Alec Knizek. Yes. Alex Knizek of Consumer Reports. We need to have him back on. We need to talk more about the whole process of especially used cars. Yeah, well, Consumer Reports is always fascinating to me. I love the fact that they buy the cars. They don't have any advertising. They are a completely unbiased source, and I love that about them. Yeah, they got into trouble once. We could talk about that at a later show. But the fact that I can remember once talks about how non-controversial they are. Okay. They were very well regarded. They're very well trusted, and they should be. Thanks to producer Randy and the good folks here at TalkZone. Saturday night, I'm on with Steve and Johnny their Halloween show. I don't know how much car stuff we'll get in.
Boo.
But I am going to talk about the story I wrote last night, which is what is winter blend gasoline?
Okay.
Maybe we can talk about that next week.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of next week, let's talk about more about cars.
Well, next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Remember to check us out at consumerguide.com.
The Car Stuff Podcast is produced by J-Turn Media.
To advertise on the show, please drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.